We're very privileged today to speak to you from the Mossel Bay Municipality Multimedia Studio, and we are having an interview with our very own Marunay Vosloo, Senior Clerk, Debt Collection. Sounds like a very serious topic we're going to be discussing, but we're not talking about debt today, are we?
No, definitely not.
We are discussing ADHD. It's something that a lot of us know something about, but Marunay is here today to tell us about her personal experience. We know that this is about raising awareness on ADHD because it's ADHD Awareness Month this October. But this is also about Marunay, representing the person behind the so-called diagnosis. Can you tell us a bit about your journey with ADHD? And perhaps if you can, start with explaining what the acronym is, because maybe people don't know what ADHD stands for.
Thank you, Cornell. Before we start, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this podcast. As you know, ADHD awareness lies very close to my heart. For me, it's more than just a topic, it's a mission. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So when I was diagnosed, actually I only found out about ADHD about 6 years ago. A doctor put me on medication, but within weeks I felt numb, depressed, even suicidal. So I stopped it, and I honestly doubted the diagnosis. Then last year, after months of harassment at work and abusive client trying to slap me, I froze, just crying, and my manager asked me why I couldn't handle it like before. Well, it's because something inside me had broken. HR sent me for counseling at SEF, but I needed more, and that's how I ended up with Dr. Pieter Smith, my psychiatrist. Through tests, questionnaires, and my mum's input, he confirmed late diagnosis ADHD. It was such a light bulb moment. Suddenly, decades of not enough, too much, everything like that made sense. But now I see the positive side of ADHD. And now I can think about what is ADHD related. I can read the room instantly, turn chaos into creativity, stay loyal, notice details others missed, and bounce back with resilience. But there's grief as well. Looking back at all the years I blamed myself, the lost opportunities, the teachers who thought I wasn't trying hard enough, the bosses that used me to do almost everything because I couldn't say no to any project, and the relationships that crumbled because I didn't know why I was struggling.
So it's actually amazing. It's now looking back, you can see how long it was actually part of your life, but you didn't know what it was until last year, if I understand you correctly.
Yes, and that's a great relief because I finally have a name for what I struggled with.
A lot of people might not know this about ADHD, that it's underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed, especially in women and girls. Why is this?
You know, ADHD in girls often slips under the radar because the stereotype is usually the loud, disruptive boy in class. But the quiet daydreamer, the messy but smart girl, the procrastinates, meaning there's things to be done, but she's only sitting, doodle in her books, or nowadays doom scrolling on her phone for hours. She gets overlooked. And it is not because she's lazy. Her brain is stuck. Women tend to mask really well, working twice as hard to keep up and just pushing through silently. And because society expects women to be calm and organized when we struggle, it is usually written off as stress and anxiety instead of ADHD. That's why so many women get diagnosed very late in life.
So it almost, if I hear you correctly, can it also be misinterpreted that women must multitask? So somehow those two things are connected, that your ADHD can be seen as that you're just good at multitasking or doing things simultaneously?
Yes, because of hyperfocus, somebody with ADHD would hyperfocus on something they let's say, is passionate about. But then came along something else that you must do, and she just can't do both of them at the same time. And then that think that you can't multitask, for example. So that is a problem. And for example, if something is not urgent enough, I wouldn't start it. That is where the procrastination is coming from. My brain doesn't want to start because there's not enough motivation.
There's not enough urgency.
And the motivation is dopamine. And it must come from somewhere. It must come from that willpower to do it.
So a lot of people might see you and think that you are handling the diagnosis or your situation pretty well because you are actually in a high-stress environment as well. But we all know that in every circumstance there are challenges. What are some of the hidden struggles people with ADHD face that others might not see?
People often assume, oh, she's handling it so well, or I never knew. But ADHD didn't show up the day of the diagnosis. I was born wired this way. I've spent over 5 decades building coping skills and survival mechanisms. So yes, I can mask it, but the struggles are still there. And honestly, they get harder with age. The breakthrough for me was realizing that I'm not bad at life. What looks like quirks are really ADHD. Saying yes all the time to people is people-pleasing. Obsessive double-checking is a fear for mistakes. Over-explaining is a need to be understood. My phone has 12,000 random screenshots, and I can promise you I will never look at them again. I live with endless lists and alarms, and sometimes I still feel that I'm always a step behind or an imposter in my own life. Furthermore, hyperfocus is a superpower, but forgetfulness, executive dysfunction, and time management, those can be brutal. Emotional intensity means I feel everything deeply. And then there's rejection sensitivity. The tiniest bit of criticism, like a friend not texting you back, can feel like rejection. Add sensory overload to this, from lights, noise, and too much input, and my brain just short-circuit. Afterwards, I get what you call ADHD hangover. That drained, foggy crash, almost like being hangover, but without the alcohol. So yes, I've learned to survive with it, but it's a daily balancing act most people don't see.
Yeah. It sounds incredibly complex, and this brings me to the next point. Are there any misconceptions about ADHD that you perhaps often encounter?
A lot of people misunderstand ADHD. They think it's just hyper or not paying attention, but it's so much more than that. On the outside, we look organized and even high-achieving, while inside we're battling focus, time management, and constant mental overwhelm. One of the biggest misconceptions is that we just need to try harder. It's not about effort. This is the way our brains are wired. And it doesn't magically disappear in adulthood. Many of us go undiagnosed for years, and now there's not a cure for it, and it won't go away. People also assume ADHD equals failure, but actually many of us develop incredible creativity, problem-solving skills, and energy. The tricky part is that it is not always obvious. A lot of us mask our symptoms and look normal. To reduce shame and make ADHD relatable, people sometimes say things like, yes, I forget things too, or everybody puts things off sometimes, or I acted before thinking, or gotten distracted too. While these statements can help normalize experiences, they can also sometimes feel like they minimize our struggles. For people with ADHD, forgetting can happen in bigger ways. Procrastination comes more easily, and distraction or impulsive actions can feel harder to manage. If one chooses to, medication can help, but it's not a fix-all. We need coping mechanisms, skills, support, and often therapy. At the end of the day, ADHD isn't a disease, it's a neurological difference. The problem isn't that we need to be fixed. It's that the world need to learn how to understand and include us.
You've covered quite a few things in that summary. It focuses a bit on the strategies and the tools that you already have in place, and that this, therapy provides support. Medication is not a solve at all, but also I assume that there's community groups that support each other, where you find strength and support.
Sadly, in Mossel Bay, there's not community groups or support groups for ADHD or any neurodivergent disease. So me and my friends started a support group just now for ADHD, and we will like to include autism. It will be a free support group, and everybody that feels that they need to hear or learn more about it is welcome.
That's wonderful news, because I think, as you mentioned, I think out of a lack of understanding, people often think it's something that's associated with children. You grow out of it. Why on earth would a grown-up suffer from ADHD? Which brings me to another thing, ADHD people in the workplace. What can colleagues and employers do to perhaps better support somebody with ADHD?
Yeah, that's a big one, because I learned that the workplace can feel like a war zone when you have ADHD, but colleagues and managers can make such a big difference. Words really matter, and so does understanding. I actually had to sit down with my manager, assistant manager, and accountant to explain how I think, what I want, and how I work best. I would say clear communication, realistic expectations, and breaking tasks into smaller steps help a lot. A flexible, supportive environment where there's room to do things differently and gentle reminders are okay. It makes a world of difference. When managers see the ADHD brain as an asset with creativity, problem solving, and innovation instead of a deficit, that changes everything. Feeling seen, appreciated, and supported is all that we need to thrive.
What you're referring to now is so important, because we spend so much time at work, and it's very, very vital that people understand how your brain works. So take my hat off to you for having had structured conversations with your line managers and your colleagues so that they could understand. Obviously, you have skills in the workplace that are vital to the organization working. And this is where it's great to make use of EAP, so that if you feel there's something about your personality, or you feel something's out of sorts, to have it seen to, go through the correct channels, get the right help or the diagnosis, or even if it's just the necessity to speak and feel a bit lighter. It's wonderful to see how you've structured your workplace around you so that you're still functional, and even better so after just having had a discussion with your immediate superiors and your colleagues. So obviously nothing's all bad, and we know that from feedback from the community, people really enjoy working with Morone Vosloo. Her name always pops up when people have compliments for the Mossel Bay municipality. So ADHD is said to be associated with creativity and energy. What strengths do you feel ADHD gives you?
ADHD actually gives me some quirky but amazing qualities. I can think outside the box, focus intensely when I'm passionate, and connect ideas that others might miss. It makes me spontaneous and adaptable, able to solve problems on the fly. It also sharpens my curiosity in noticing details and patterns, which fuels my love for learning. Of course, it comes with challenges, but I've learned to embrace the good, the bad, and the messy, and understand my brain and managing the tough parts. Ultimately, ADHD let me be creative, positive, and confident. I know I'm loved, and my opinion matters and I can achieve whatever I set my mind to.
Well, in a way, when you put it this way, it doesn't sound so bad. It sounds like ADHD could really be a perk. So, are there moments where ADHD helped you to think or approach something differently?
Absolutely. ADHD show up in my life every day. It's my companion. I walk hand in hand with it. So there's really helpful ways. For example, when I helped my mum care for my dad with Alzheimer's, my adaptability make a huge difference. Alzheimer's is unpredictable and so was he. Some days calm and some days chaotic. My ADHD helped me switch gears quickly, come up with out-of-the-box ideas and use humor and creativity when things fell apart. And in the hardest moments, my hyper-focus kicked in. I could shut out everything else and be fully present to reassure him every day everything is okay. Even when he couldn't remember me in the end, he came to me for help.
Wow.
At work, it's the same. I see connections others might miss, solve problems creatively, and even creating my own SOPs when none existed when I started working at the municipality. But I needed instructions to be in writing, and I need to go back for them if I forget something. And it ended up saving time for the whole team. In my current position in debt collection, I not only manage accounts and debt, but also closely observe clients' cues, such as tone of voice, hesitance, or change in communication, which help me spot potential issues early and even detect it when someone may be dishonest, which is important in my line of work. This skill allows me to address problems proactively, ensuring clients feel heard and supported and achieve more accurate and effective resolutions. And in personal projects, I love mixing ideas from art and technology, and even in conversations, I notice patterns, and that helps me to understand and respond quickly, which is why people trust me as a therapist or counselor and a digital designer. Sure, I miss some social cues like knowing when to stop talking. Like you can see, that's one of my
Well, that's
quirks.
such a lovely discussion.
But overall, my brain working differently lets me approach life and problems in unique ways. And that's why my clients keep coming back.
Sure, Mariné. I mean, by the way that you've unpacked all of this, it's incredible. You mentioned earlier that ADHD is your companion. You live with it. It's with you every day. And it seems as if it's something with all the good, the bad, and the messy that you've integrated in yourself as a person. And I think that's why this conversation is so important, is for maybe anybody tuning in, co-workers, family members of people suffering with some sort of diagnosis, to understand that sometimes that's the cross we bear. It's something that stays with us, and we need to learn to integrate it as part of our being. And it can be done in your private life, but also in your work life, making you a highly functional and valuable employee. But there needs to be communication. There needs to be a two-way street, and there needs to be an understanding of neurodiversity in the workplace, which can actually make the output better than necessarily take away from it. In light of this, what advice would you give to somebody who suspects they might have ADHD?
If you think you might have ADHD, my advice is to trust yourself and ask for help. That is the most important thing. You have to ask for help because nobody's going to reach out to you. They're just going to think you a little mad, crazy or whatever. Talk to a professional who can assess you properly and lean on people close to you. For me, it's my mum, my husband, and my best friend. Sometimes you even need to explain ADHD to them too because they don't know. But having that support makes the difference. Getting diagnosed doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your brain works differently. The diagnosis doesn't take away your worth. It actually gives you the tools and skills to thrive. It helps you see this isn't a flaw, it's ADHD. And then you can start working with your brain instead of against it. For me, the turning point was realizing ADHD isn't just a list of problems and struggles. It was also creativity, resilience, and perspective. It's never too late to be diagnosed, and when you are, you can finally treat yourself with compassion, stop playing by someone else's rules, and understand the brilliance and the chaos inside of you. And that is freedom.
So, if there's one myth about ADHD you wish you could make disappear forever, what would it be?
Well, one of the biggest misconceptions I wish would go away is that ADHD is being hyper or not paying attention or to try harder. Some people even assume that it means you're slow or dumb. Yeah. I've had people literally talk slower and harder to me if I mentioned ADHD. But ADHD looks very different in real life, especially for adults and women. Some of us are quiet, some talk a lot, I definitely do, and some look organized and successful on the outside. Inside, though, we're juggling a constant overwhelm, distraction, and emotional struggles. It's not about laziness, lack of effort, of being unintelligent. It's simply the way we are wired. We're differently wired. Interesting fact, many famous people, both living and historical, are believed to have had or have ADHD, including athletes like Michael Phelps, entrepreneurs like Richard Branson and Bill Gates, and entertainers like Justin Timberlake and Jim Carrey. While many contemporary figures have been diagnosed, historical figures like Thomas Edison, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Albert Einstein are often cited as potential cases for ADHD due to their observed traits.
Well, I guess what is amazing is just in this interview, I've learned that my own understanding of ADHD was so limited. I never would have associated with people being quieter. My association is always just with people being hyper. So just in speaking to you, I've gained a lot of insight. In terms of what the rest of the community can do to reduce the stigma, you mentioned quite a few things that hangs around the necks and is slapped on the foreheads of people that have this diagnosis. What can we do to reduce the stigma and raise awareness?
I think the best way to reduce stigma about ADHD is by talking about it openly and humanizing the experience. Sharing personal stories and educating others really helps breaking misconceptions. Workplaces and communities can do their part too by encouraging empathy, listening without judgment, and creating safe spaces for people to ask for support. Even just normalizing the conversation makes a big difference. I often explain it like this. Having ADHD is like having the engine of a Ferrari, but the brakes of a bicycle. The issue isn't funny. The engine, it's learning how to strengthen the brakes so the power can actually be used.
And then you must also take in consideration the downhill on Marsh Street. So that actually adds another interesting dynamic to it. Mariné, I think wrapping up, is there something that you would have liked to say to a young Mariné or somebody that perhaps identifies with you today? And maybe if you want to include in this, I think what's important, what you mentioned now, was normalizing and speaking about it. And the fact that you still, even with your own family who knows you best, sometimes have to be open from your side. So there's a big step on the part of the person with the diagnosis, taking ownership and being open about it. So it starts with you as well. Anything that you'd like to say in wrapping up the interview, something that you would like to tell your younger self, or perhaps somebody out there listening today that think I can identify with this?
If I could speak to young Mariné or anybody else, doesn't matter the age or the gender or the position you are in. Well, if it's a younger Mariné, I would put her on my knee, look her in the eyes and tell her, you are so much more capable than you think. Your mind may feel like a whirlwind, but it's not a weakness, it's your superpower. I know you often feel behind, like everyone else has it figured out. but you're not behind. You're just moving at your own pace. And that's okay. You're not broken or lazy, just wired differently. Learn to work with your brain, not against it. Your struggles now are shaping you for the strength and creativity ahead. Embrace who you are, seek support, and remember, you're not alone. Be your Nero spicy self. You've got this.
I like that. Marinae Vosloo, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, for being so open about the diagnosis. And we really hope that during this month of October, ADHD Awareness Month, that whoever listens finds some connection, that there's some sort of a spark, that it allows you to understand a colleague better, a family member, a friend perhaps, or just maybe the person behind the counter helping you with your debt collection.
Yes.
Marinae, thank you very much. And I will include your details in the chat box perhaps. So if anybody wants to reach out to you to speak, we hope that'll be okay. And again, thank you to our EAP office for allowing us to do this podcast in collaboration with them as part of Wellness Waves.
Thank you very much. And anybody is welcome to contact me. I would like you to come to our support group. Yeah, knowledge is power.